we decided to pull this training together because as adults and our children are increasingly turning to digital tools for school, for work, for socialization, and so online safety matters more than ever. And I've also heard like a lot of parents and caregivers saying, I feel a little guilty about how much internet and screen time my kids are getting. And so, this does, like, while it's a great resource, it also puts children and youth for increased risk for online exploitation. That's going to be kind of the focus for today. And this will be kind of the tip of the iceberg of the tip of the iceberg, Internet Safety 101. Stacey, would you share your screen with your whiteboard? Tell us who you are and where you're from. And if you use at least one form of social media, what it is and what you use it for. Who would like to go first? And again, you're welcome to pass at any time.
I use Facebook for my business and for personal use. And I have Snapchat, and I use that to monitor my kid. And I have Instagram, but I don't use it. So I have all of the different platforms that my kids want to have so that I can monitor what they are doing on the internet.
Great. Who'd like to go next?
Okay, I only use Facebook, and none of my children have, well, my grown child does, but I don't monitor her. But the younger children don't, and one we made sure that it got taken down. I am a foster and an adoptive and a bio parent, and we have 5 kids.
Great. And do you yourself use social media?
Facebook, yes.
Okay. And what do you use it for?
Personal use.
Let's go next.
We are parents of 3 teenagers, and we are also foster parents, mostly for new babies, newborns, but we've had other placements as well. And I personally don't have any social media, although I have a cell phone and has Facebook. Is that it?
Yeah, Instagram, but I don't really check Instagram.
Instagram, we just have for our children's sake. Yes.
See a little bit more about, so that, how do you use that? Why do you have Instagram for your children's sake?
So that I can check if I want to, what they're doing on Instagram.
Okay.
I don't post pictures.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Facebook we use for personal, but it's mostly people who are, outside of who we see on a regular basis.
So mostly for staying in touch with other people.
Okay. Great. Do you want to go next?
I'm foster, mom, grandma. Gotta get them all in there. I use Facebook for community information.
Sounds dangerous.
Well, no, it's not. Like the farm to table information is on there. Keeping track of my neighbors back and forth.
Okay, I think
Sure. Name, situation, and social media usage, is that correct?
yeah.
Okay. We've done a little bit of kind of various fostering at first, and now we've had our current young lady for 2.5 years now, and working towards adoption. And also because it's relevant to this, she's actually currently living in a group home, and hopefully will be home fairly soon. But she just got the privilege of computer time with social media, so now that's one of the primary ways we're able to connect with her. So this is kind of a unique situation that we're in.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
As an RC, we have a Facebook page, with Chittenden County foster parents to hopefully get out training information, community supports, opportunities for foster families. So at least that page is a little bit different than a personal page.
Yeah, I would say the same. I have a personal Facebook, but then more of a community partner Facebook page. And I too just got Instagram, but only to monitor or stay in touch with one of my kiddos. I am not good at Instagram is what I'm learning.
And I'll add too, so I have a personal Facebook page, and like many of you said, you know, I use it to keep in, like my nieces and nephews aren't going to be sending me notes and stuff like that and pictures of their kids. So I use it to see, you know, family members that I don't get to see, but I also belong to a couple organizations that I oversee Facebook pages. I'm one of the administrators for the Vermont Trauma Lens. And I also use Instagram mostly for art purposes. I'm an artist. I like to follow other artists, and we can talk about Instagram because Instagram is one of the things that is more popular than Facebook, where people can just easily follow you, and you, like, based on a hashtag, they can get right in there and see your information. So we're going to talk about this today. So we have seen an unprecedented rise in screen time for young people of all ages, and that's due to the closing of schools, hybrid models of schools for reopening, online and virtual learning environments, you know, and most people and families are relying on digital solutions to keep kids learning. Do you find that you are also using technology more than you ever have before, just as by a raise of hands? Yeah, across the board. Also, like I have found, like when we first pivoted to online and virtual classes, we had a lot of foster parents say, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. And now we hardly ever hear from a foster parent or a kinship caregiver saying, I don't know how to do this. I think we all got to be very comfortable with this very quickly. How are you feeling about all this technology use, and what concerns do you have that might have brought you here today?
My biggest concern is I have a 14-year-old, well, he will be this week, who ordered a truck online.
Like a truck, like a
$40,000 vehicle to be delivered on a Friday morning to my yard. And then he's bidding on eBay and stuff like that, that I don't know how he's getting into this stuff. Well, I know how he's getting into it, but how to monitor it and how to slow it down a bit before I have a $40,000 truck delivered to my yard.
Yeah, right. Okay, what else? That's amazing. So what other concerns do you have?
One of our children at school, they were allowed to have Pinterest, to open up their own Pinterest page, and I didn't know about it. I use Pinterest, but I use it pretty appropriately. But the boys must have caught on at school, and they created their own pages, and they had a lot of their own bookmarks, which were inappropriate. I was rather shocked that all was on Pinterest, but everything is everywhere. And I didn't know until we actually got a text from school personnel saying, looks like your son was Mother's Day shopping for some new outfits for you. Yeah. And thought, what is she talking about? And sure enough, when I logged onto his computer, I'm finding this stuff. More than just that, but somehow the kids are figuring out how to get through different areas at school.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's not stuff I would have known. And even with the rules where we sat down and said, you will never do this again, I've deleted this account, he found a way to go on to something else. And it's literally with us in the room, and we're very attentive parents.
So we're going to talk about that today. Does anybody want to add anything else before we move on?
Yeah, I think that just to reiterate the fact that so often in life previously, like there were good places and bad places to bring our kids, you know, like certain places that you can go are clearly for adults and some are clearly for children. And that's not really the case with the internet. Almost everything can be used for healthy things or unhealthy things. And if we try to not let our kids go on anything on the internet that could be unhealthy, they're not going to go anywhere. So I think just, you know, for me, the more information we can get, not about what websites could potentially maybe be bad, but how they can be bad, how they track information, how they transmit information, the closer we're going to be to caught up.
Great point. And you know, that's all right.
Sharon, can I add one more thing?
Sure.
So we struggle with the addictive nature of just screen time in general, whether it's the PlayStation or the, 5 minutes to check my email and play the games and Instagrams and all those things. It just creates this sort of these habits that are just not healthy.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we struggle with.
Well, and I get that too. I mean, I feel that personally. I live alone, and all of a sudden I'm like, why am I checking in on this stuff all the time? What is it that I think is going to be happening that I'm going to miss? And so I feel that. And so a young person's developing brain even more has that addictive quality too. So really today we're going to develop a baseline of knowledge, skills, and resources that are needed to help the kids and your family be safe online. So feel free to take notes, but also know that I'm going to send the PowerPoint out afterwards. I'm going to send you links to articles. I'm going to send you links to websites and stuff like that. So one of the first steps that we can do to increase internet safety is to have some household rules or norms or expectations around this. All parents and caregivers should establish house rules around technology use. These rules may differ from family to family, depending on the children's age, developmental level, their abilities, the amount of maturity a young person has, and the trust. And you all being trauma-informed caregivers, we know that, that these things, age, developmental level, abilities, maturity, and trust, can fluctuate from day to day or even within a day. So just having some rules, it's a good guideline, but we're also going to try to figure out some ways to have ongoing conversations like this. I'm going to say it a lot today. These are not one and done conversations. These are conversations you have all the time. Like I know when my kids were growing up, we had conversations a lot as they popped up naturally in movies, on the radio, stuff. And my kids got to be the point where they were like, oh, can't we ever just watch something? And it became a joke in our family. But I now have savvy kids who have open conversations about things. What I'm wondering is, before we talk about guidelines for developing internet safety, let's take a moment we just talked about some of the concerns. How many of you already have an internet contract or pledge of some sort in your homes? And I can't see everybody. No, not yet. Okay, and do you have proactive conversations about internet use instead of reactive, like, what, you ordered a $40,000 truck? Do you have proactive conversations when there's not an issue at hand? Okay, and so I'm also wondering, how many of you got the email and had a chance to Google yourself? And for this, just unmute yourself and just kind of call out, take turns. If you Googled yourself, what were the things, I'm guessing there are things you expected. Was there anything unexpected that you came up with that you were like, oh, I didn't know that was out there?
I Googled myself and I found my Facebook page and my Zynga page, which I didn't know existed still.
Oh, wait, is that still up?
Stop.
I don't even know what Zynga is.
Yeah, it's.
Don't worry, I'll screenshot it when I find it.
Stop it. And then but I looked up my married name and my maiden name to see what I could find. And I didn't really find anything else. I found a lot of generators that you can put names into, and if you pay X amount of money, the address and that kind of information, which I'm not sure if you can actually get my personal address, but that could be an issue.
So I can tell you that if you go to Google White Pages and put in your name and the town where you live, your address is going to pop up.
Okay.
Likely. If not, that's awesome. But a lot of times it comes up, and sometimes it'll even have a list of people you're associated with. And I'm always like, wow, how did that happen? What else did other people find?
I found my obituary.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You're looking good for a dead person.
Yeah.
How did you die? Do you know?
I don't know.
Your
I
age
was
is
only
off.
35 though when I
Yeah.
died, so that was a while ago. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
not,
sorry,
not me.
Todd.
Yeah. I didn't find anything surprising about myself, but I did find that interesting.
The first time I Googled myself, I found out I'm a rock and roll star from Ireland or Scotland. And there were so many posts about her that I had to dig around a little bit more to find this plain Sharon O'Neill. So that was a little interesting. So just know, like, what?
Nothing, I do have to say, as a teacher, nothing is more interesting than sitting in your classroom during homeroom and having a kid start to tell you all these things that they know about you just by Googling your name.
Right? Yeah.
That's an experience that everyone should have at some point.
So, kids, Google the kids or the family members, your own family members of the young people you're taking care of. It's not going to be really hard for them to find you, for them, birth parents or parents to find their kids, and for kids to find their birth parents. And like somebody else said, even though I had some restrictions on it, they found ways to override that. What we're going to do before we talk about an internet safety plan, I'm going to show you guys a movie, and I want you to think about what guidelines everybody already said you don't really have a safety plan yet. So this is a quick movie about internet safety and making up safety plans.
The internet is a very important part of every family's lifestyle. Where else can you research school projects, shop 24/7, or chat with friends? But if it isn't used properly, the internet can also be dangerous. This video is designed for families to watch together so they can develop an internet safety plan. Let's review some simple rules that every family should follow. The first way to stay safe is by keeping the computer in a common area instead of a child's bedroom. When the computer screen can be seen by everyone, it's much easier to keep an eye on internet use. And before children use the computer, it's a great idea to install parental controls. These can be found through your service provider, or you can purchase special blocking software. Filters are a great first step for safety, but they can't block out every danger. Make sure you are monitoring your family's internet usage. Get to know how your child is using the internet. One way to learn this is to sit with your child at the computer. Have your child show you what he or she does online. Who knows? You may learn a thing or two in the process. Let's review some of the rules we've covered so far. Keep the computer in a common room. Install parental controls. And get to know how your child is using the internet. Now let's talk about some important points that kids should follow. First, never chat with people you don't know. Since you can't see the people you're chatting with, they can pretend to be anybody they want. If someone tells you they are a 9-year-old boy, they could actually be a 35-year-old man. To keep safe, only chat with people you know. And when you're online, never give out personal details. What type of information am I talking about? Things like your name, where you live, your computer password, even the name of your school or sports team. For example, if you have shared the name of your soccer team and your number, a predator could use this information to find you. These rules also apply to all your family and friends. Don't give out any information about anyone else before getting permission. And digital photos should never be shared with strangers. You should never accept or open attachments from people you don't know. If you open an attachment from the wrong person, it could destroy your computer files. Ask your parents to use antivirus software. Be sure they update it often. It's better to be safe than sorry. And most importantly, you should never meet online friends in person, since they may not be who they say they are. There are many unsafe things that can happen on the internet. So there's one overall rule children should always follow. Tell your parents or another trusted adult if at any time you feel uncomfortable with anything that's happened. If someone sends you something that makes you feel uneasy, don't reply. Tell your parents or a trusted adult so they can contact your online service provider. If anything unsafe happens, you can report it to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. This safety organization will ask questions about the event and refer you to people who can help. We've covered a lot of information about internet safety. To help you remember all these ideas, post some easy-to-read house rules right near your computer. You can also develop a contract for family members to sign to ensure that everyone is following internet safety rules. The internet is a great source of valuable information. By following these simple tips, you can keep your family safe from harm.
Okay, so in that clip that we just watched, were there some things that you realized you already do? Are there things that you're like, oh, that would be that was surprising to me, or I hadn't thought about that before?
Sharon, the only thing that really came to my mind was I thought it was a really good video. However, it mainly just talked about the computer. And while most people have things like cell phones and iPads and laptops and things, it seems like that would be a little bit harder to navigate those safety rules.
Right.
So we're going to touch on how to manage might not be the right word, but how to deal with all of those issues.
Yep, we will.
That aren't just right in the living room.
Right, because the tablets and the phones, they carry with them all over the place, and you can't be with them in the same room all over the place. And so we're going to go over some tips for all devices that you have. And again, when this is over, I'm going to send you links for how to put protective measures on devices. And in just a moment, I'm going to have you share the question that you sent me this morning and what the response was. So what else came up for people about creating safety?
It just gave me ideas to put up house rules for the internet.
Great. And again, not just the internet, Wi-Fi use like that.
Right.
So
right.
guidelines that come from Vermont DCF Family Services, and I'll send this guidance to you. It just came out probably like 2 months ago. And here, Stacy and Kathy, if you have anything to add at any point, just jump in. They suggest establishing when and where you're comfortable having children and youth use devices in your home. And again, by getting some protective factors, it can protect them from things that could pop up on their devices when they're not at home. Consider the difference between using a device for school and using it for entertainment. You might have some different rules about that. Talk about balancing time spent on technology, media, and other activities. And that's a really tough one, I hear people say now, because a lot of activities aren't happening because you can't gather in large groups. That also adds to the uptick in using social media. Learn age rules for different sites, platforms, and apps, and also know that you can also set your own standards. If an app or a site says, this is good for 10-year-olds, and you're like, not this 10-year-old, then in your home, re-navigate that. Cookbook guidelines don't work for these kids, as we know. Review the apps and games before they're downloaded. There's always a pop-up that comes up about permission for this. Set some parenting or some safety standards on that. Explain what images posted online may stay on the internet permanently. I think this is one of those things that, especially with Snapchat, people think, oh, it's gone so quick. Nothing is ever gone. Period. Nothing is ever gone. And I don't think they get it, or, developmentally, they, some young people might not matter to them. We're going to see a video in just a minute about why kids take risks on the internet, what that's about, and why they use internet. And some of the reasons they talk about are kind of the same reasons that you guys also talked about, why you use it, but your brains are developed and their brains aren't, and they're not as concerned about risk and impact as an adult would be. And also, I know there have been times, even as an adult, where I'm like, I'm barely interested in my life. Why would anybody want to track what I'm texting or posting about? It's not exciting, but it does could give people access to accounts or other people in your life, or if I'm posting where I am and in the picture I have a child with me, someone could be like, oh, I don't care she's there, but I'm really interested in that child who's with her. So, even if you think you're not doing something exciting, it really lets people know where you are, and especially depending on what the safety and risk factors are for the family of the child or children you're taking care of, allows that family to track you, which could lead to unexpected access to the kids. Supervise all use of internet-enabled devices. Regularly check online communities that they use to see what they're posting. Know their online activities and friends. Supervise photos and videos that they post and receive online. Discuss risks of features like live streaming and disappearing time-limited content. Discourage the use of webcams and mobile videos and devices for younger kids, and help teens and tweens figure out how to use video safely. That's an important one. I mean, live is so important for people. And I recently became concerned about these cameras that are always on, and I got this little switch. I'm going to put it on right now. And it just covers my camera. I can still be attending to a meeting, but people can't see me and can't see like maybe things I might have in back of me that could identify who I am and where I am. And, that might be a little device. It's really tiny. It just sticks right to the computer. And that could be really helpful for kids. 2, prohibit kids from meeting face-to-face with someone they only know online or through their mobile device. Teach children how to respond to cyberbullies and tell them they can always talk to you. And I want to say, like in this video, it said, report concerns to the missing and exploited children's line. Also report it to your family service worker, talk to your resource coordinator about it. When you are a foster parent, you also have access to this whole team of support people that can help you figure this out. Kathy and Stacy, do you have anything to add based on your experiences with families?
No, I mean, I think it's great, especially for those of you that have, tweens and teens, to make sure that everybody understands what the limits are on your household, internet use and electronic use, so that a social worker isn't inadvertently not, saying or doing something that you, disagree with. So like getting a kiddo a cell phone, and maybe that's not okay in your home. So I think being really clear with your social worker about what your limits are as a family is really important.
Great. We'll see a chat that you can call Vermont 211 24/7. And the phone number for that is 211. So to ask for help. I'm wondering if right now, can you tell people what the question was that you sent me this morning?
Sorry, I'm just going to read it.
Yeah.
So I had sent this email this morning. I hear a lot of this question comes up a lot in our friend circle. So how are we to set boundaries and such when cell phones and devices that the foster kiddos come with are considered personal property?
Great question, right? And it's one thing to have a list of like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to check off the boxes, but it's not always that easy when you have a young person who's like, oh, no, you don't. I reached out to Lindsay Barron, who sent out this guidance, and she wrote back, and she had a couple of different really good pieces of advice. And, she said, as we've already said, incorporate device and technology discussions into all conversations and in your orienting to your home. Include it in a shared parenting meeting, especially like if a kid has come into custody and into your home, having a phone that was supplied by their family. Really, the ownership of that phone is the family, the parent, right? And so that would be a great thing, when you have a shared parenting meeting, to say, what kind of devices does this child or young person come with? And what rules did you have, or agreements did you have in your home about use of this? And hopefully you can come to an agreement together with the parent, with the family service workers there, who can help you navigate that. Hopefully, They can help together. You can set up rules and boundaries about how it will work. That could include having access to all passwords, monitoring conversations, setting limits on the amount of time and who they can talk to, taking away the phone as needed.
We actually know of at least one kiddo who took away the cell phone, was told that they're not allowed to take away the cell phone, and the cell phone was court ordered back to the child. And the child would not give any passwords. There was nothing. And he or she went to lots and lots of video chats in the home with the bio family. So it created a safety risk for the foster families. And so it just, that's just one example of the problems that kids having cell phones coming in when you don't really have any control.
Right. And so again, you're going to want to work with the family service worker. And I'm going to defer to you, Kathy, here. Like that might be an instant where you can talk about a safety risk, which would be cause for a judge. Because, some families think that it's actually DCF putting the guidelines and limits, but these are court-ordered limits and guidelines. And so if the child or youth is doing something in your home, like having video chats that increase a safety risk in your home, your family service worker, a resource coordinator can help you navigate a safety plan about that. Do you want to add anything to that, Kathy?
Yeah, I think having a positive working relationship with the child's GAL, the guardian ad litem, can be really helpful because they're the advocate for that child in court. And I think if you can help them understand that it becomes a safety risk for you and for them, they can then bring that in front of the judge. I also think that probably a lot of you have Wi-Fi and, kids aren't actually like plugging in to make their devices work. And so having some controls, I hear that there are companies out there where you can literally turn it on and off. And lots of us in Vermont, we don't always have service. So if you have the ability to have that control, tweens and teens are not going to like it, but that can be one of the really, kind of nice things is that at 9 o'clock, the Wi-Fi is done for everybody in the household.
Yeah. And I know people who also change the password frequently, if they're not respecting, I can see in that situation, you could have rules for your home, you will not do video chats with your family in our home, right? Yeah. And you can go in and change your internet password any time you want, and they don't get the internet password until they're willing to make an agreement with you. Now, if the phone was supplied by family services, then you have a lot more negotiability, or if it was supplied through their YDP, then you have a lot more enforceable negotiability. But if it was provided by the family and you can't get a family alignment in shared parenting, or if the young person bought it themselves, if they bought it themselves, you can set guidelines on what happens in your family space or in your shared living space. Right. And outside of that, you may not be able to do much of anything.
Yeah, I can say that Chittenden County has a foster home. They're licensed for 4 kiddos. They have 4 teenagers in their home, and they have a no phone, no laptop. They have no electronics, period. They don't have video games. They don't have, cell phones. They don't no iPad and nothing with 4 teenagers. It's pretty amazing. And I've had to tweak that a little bit with kids now being home and schooling, but they're very clear when we call them for a placement, for us to, tell a child prior to coming into their home that these are the expectations. It's not going to change with a new placement. So they're just really clear about what the rules and expectations are in their home. And I think that's fair. It sets everybody up for the same standards. It's not one rule for one kid and one rule for another kid.
Right. Okay, so
Can I
go ahead.
Jump in real quick? It brings up a good point of, I think, finding ways to control the internet as close to the source as possible is really helpful. you know, we've had kids in our house that, you know, they had a phone taken away and then convinced a boy at school to give them his old phone, and all of a sudden there's a device in the house we don't know about. And most modems nowadays, it's not too difficult to get in and change passwords. And another option is if you spend a little bit, more money and get a nicer, higher quality internet modem, a lot of those will have even easier user interfaces for setting up like multiple Wi-Fi networks with different passwords. And, you know, you can have like one Wi-Fi network that's just for the kids in your house that you can shut off separately from your internet, which is a lot better than, you know, going and just unplugging your router and then you don't have internet either. So I'm guessing that's not something we have time to get in the class today, but there's a lot of options out there for, you know, just controlling it at that source where they can sneak a phone in if they want, but they can't get on the internet.
And they will. Like, you can set up all the
Right.
guidelines that you want and they will figure out ways around it. So I just noticed we have 5 minutes left. We've had some good conversations. I have more to show you. You're welcome. I'm going to keep presenting. You're welcome to stay on. And if you have to leave, I understand. Also know that I'm going to send all this information out to you. And I can also send you the link to the rest of the conversation when we're done. But if you want to stay on, we're going to stay on. And I apologize. The time seemed to go very quickly, at least for me. You know, some of these things we said already, you know, but really your most effective tools are time, attention, and active conversation. And this goes for everything with the kid. You know, it's all about relationship. And some other things we may not have thought about, you know, that we already said, like content blockers don't always ensure that kids are protected. Be really clear about your expectations and how they're going to be monitored. Again, have those conversations about personal information that they're sharing online. Use your parental controls. I'll send you a link about that. Use and set age appropriate filters. And you might need to navigate that from time to time based on, you know, how the kid is doing. I mean, their developmental and emotional level is changing over time, depending on what's happening with their family and of course the case process and stuff like that. Let's see. Also, you know, check their online activity and browser history. You can set time limits, how much time you're allowed to have, discourage use of chat rooms. Also talk to school staff about what sites the kids are using. So I have a video to show you about kids talking about their internet use.
The idea of, you know, posting and having a lot of people see it can definitely be kind of scary. You know, if you're a teenager, you're going to make bad decisions sometimes.
They can screenshot it, they can do so many things to save that, and they can edit it in ways that you won't want them to.
Whether or not you think it'll go away, it's there. Anything you post online, you're stuck with.
Oversharing to me is putting too much of your personal life in front of a wide audience of people.
Posting something for the sake of showing that you're there and maybe not because you're actually having that great of a time.
Posting about things that people don't necessarily think are significant, but they're just kind of posting to be posting.
What you share and how often you share is going to affect the way that somebody views you. Just because I'm going to post all the time, that doesn't mean that you're going to get all the attention. That doesn't mean that everybody's going to like you.
For example, people have like Finstas or spam accounts where they just like post random stuff, and sometimes they get too personal with what they're talking about on there.
Things that are meant to be texted one-to-one, people tend to post online so 50 other people can see their plans for tomorrow or the next weekend. You could be doing something like that could potentially endanger yourself by making your account public and saying too much about where you live or who you are.
When I'm in like a cool location and I want to show everybody where I am, but most of the time I'll just tag where I am on like a Snapchat story so people can know.
So once you put something online, it can be there forever because people might take screenshots, they might record it, they might save it.
I don't think people don't realize that it's going to be there forever. I think they just don't care. A lot of people have this mentality of like, what I'm doing is very insignificant. Why is anyone gonna care about this?
You should be cautious of what you post. Don't post your pictures and think like, okay, nobody's seeing me, nobody's screenshotting me, nobody doing nothing, because people doing that, you're just not gonna know.
Your Snapchats, despite the fact that they only last, 4 to 8 seconds, they're still there. Your Instagram stories that go away after 24 hours, they're still there.
Anything that is posted, anything that's up, no matter what happens, even if you leave it up for a minute and take it down, it's there as soon as you put it up there. No one's going to scrutinize everything that you say the same way that you might.
You are not obliged to post every second of your life in order to please what you might seem as the majority of people. So when you feel like you have to post all the time, when you feel like you have to do this in order to get fame and attention, you don't. It's not your job.
That's something you always have to be thinking about. What do you want people to remember you on social media as?
This is one video of a series on YouTube called Teen Voices and the Pressure to Stay Connected. And these are all of the titles that they have. And they're all short, 3 to 4 minutes. And it's the same group of young people talking about the digital footprint, friendships, digital drama, who are you talking to, friends in social media. There's also one about sexting on there. It's a really good series, and I would encourage you to take a look at it and look at them with the kids that you're taking care of. Just in the sake of time, I'm just gonna move forward quick. If that's okay, if you have a question, just stop me. This is all about conversations. These are conversation starters that you can have with kids. Some of them we've already talked about. These are conversation starters. These are not interview questions. These are not meant to be asked all in one sitting. If you do, they will shut down immediately. These questions will all be in the information that I send you. And so again, like I said earlier, ask these questions as things come up. Do you have any questions about these conversation starters? Stacy, before you leave, could you put the evaluation link in the chat? And if people could start filling out the evaluation, that would be great. We use evaluation material to help us plan future trainings. It's short and it's all done online. So if you could do that, and I'll just complete this, go through this again. These are the common emojis. I was surprised by this. Emojis that kids use and what they mean. Dancer, someone my age might use it to be like, yay, I'm so excited. Kids would use it to be, I'm ready to go, feeling sexy. Cherries could mean, a butt or rear end, breast, male genitalia, virginity, explosion is, orgasm. Oops. Banana is a phallic symbol. Donut is a cosmopolitan sex tip. The handshake symbol is they've made some sort of agreement, mostly some sort of sexual thing. A clown, desire to get weird, willingness to get weird, and that's sexually based. That's not just like, hey, let's be goofy. Beers are, male genitalia or breast. The eggplant is a phallic symbol also, and there's a lot of other ones. I'm going to give you the link to this site that just talks about all the emojis and the conversations that they're having. And why do I show you this? Because if you're monitoring devices and you see some of this, you might be like, oh, that's so cute that they're going to go meet for donuts. Well, it doesn't actually mean that they're going to meet for donuts or something like that. Did you put the evaluation in, Stacy?
Yes, it's in the chat.
Great. So let me stop sharing so I can see all of you. I would appreciate you working on the evaluation. And if any of you have any questions before we leave, again, I apologize about the time issue. If you have any questions, or if you could tell us one thing that you are taking away from this, one thing you might do differently, I think it would be great.
I think just the constant reminder to be proactive, and even, when we were talking about like antivirus software, I was like, holy cow, I haven't thought about antivirus software in forever. I mostly just don't do stupid things on the internet. But if I have a, teenager who's also using the family computer, who's probably going to be less careful, especially, even about clicking banner ads and stuff like that, and checking in on rules again, and everything changes so quickly. Just continuing to, not saying like, well, we've had these internet policies since 2009. Like that's not gonna help.
Right. And, I think reactivity, this is all about relationship. I think reactivity too, like your reactivity when you find out that your kid is sharing naked pictures of themselves, at first could be like, what were you thinking? Well, this is about what happened to you and why you don't have boundaries. Or when you realize that a $40,000 truck is being delivered to your house in a couple of days, if your reactivity sort of invites what their response is going to be. And that noted, we're all human, and you hear something that you're shocked about, or you thought, I never thought this would happen. You might have that reactivity, but it's how you then go back and repair that and say, you know what? I freaked out because I was really scared and I was afraid that this was dangerous for you, but let's revisit that because I did not handle that the best way. That's the best way that they're going to, like, if you establish those relationships, they're going to come to you and they're going to talk with you when they have concerns.
Yeah, I think just opening up that communication, and like I have a really good communication with my child right now, but she hasn't had access to internet in a very long time, and she tries really hard to be responsible, and she wants to be responsible, and she'll like ask us if the school is requiring her to have something that we don't want her to have. She'll like ask, can I have this social media platform for my class or whatever? And so like there's a lot of those moments where I'm like, oh, we're doing something right. And then as soon as you start thinking you're doing something right, that's when something is being hidden as well. And so you have to, be like, okay, so how is everything else going? And one of the things that we used to do with her is check her cell phone once a week. So even if it wasn't social media, if it was like texting or phone calls, and like going through her contacts and seeing like, who are these people and what names has she put on her contact list that aren't the right names, or things like that.
Yeah. I heard somebody say recently that they were scrolling through their kids' contacts and saw pharmacy, and they were like, why would they have the pharmacy number? Well, it's color, right? So you also think like, what, depending on what they name it, like what else could it mean? Like a donut's not always a donut, right? And an eggplant's not always an eggplant. But it's that relationship stuff, that conversation stuff. And it's also okay to say like, I trust you, but I don't trust everybody else who's and let's remember, as trauma-informed caregivers, these young people may not have been brought up with boundaries, or like, it also feels good to get that kind of attention and that kind of responsiveness. It also feels good. And it also feels good to feel like someone's giving you attention, or that somehow you have a piece of control when it turns out they might be groomed or something, being groomed for something. They don't know that. They just really like how it feels. And to acknowledge that, like, I know this kind of attention feels good, and let's talk about why it's dangerous. Again, I'm going to send you follow-up information. If any of you think of anything like, oh, I'd like to share this with you, send me a link and I'll put it in it's going to take me a couple days to get the video and stuff together. So I won't be sending something out for a couple days. If there's something you would like me to include that you can share with other people who have been on this call, email me and I'll make sure everybody gets that. But any last minute questions or comments? Okay. Thanks so much for taking the time to join today. I really appreciated your thoughtful comments and questions. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.